Hello, I'm Cheryl Kane Piasecki, Senior Instructor with OGE's Institute for Ethics in Government.
And I am Melba Melton, Assistant Counsel in OGE's Ethics, Law, and Policy Branch. And welcome to part 3 of our series on 18 USC 208B1 waivers.
In this session, we'll be discussing the process you'll follow once you have a draft 208B1 waiver ready for OGE to review.
Your waivers journey begins with its submission to OGE to initiate the consultation process. Once the consultation process concludes, your waiver must be signed and issued. Final waivers are then subject to record-keeping requirements and to release to the public upon request.
As Melba said, the journey to a final waiver begins when you submit your draft waiver to OGE. So clearly, before you can initiate a waiver consultation process with OGE, you have to have prepared a draft waiver, hopefully following the guidelines we discussed at length in part 2 of this series. Once you have your draft waiver prepared and ready for review, you'll submit that draft waiver to the OGE desk officer assigned to your agency. Your desk officer will then review the draft waiver to become familiar with the facts, and they may contact you with general questions about the circumstances of the waiver. They'll then refer the draft waiver to OGE's Chief of the Ethics, Law, and Policy Branch for assignment to an OGE attorney, who may or may not be your desk officer. That assigned OGE attorney will be the primary point of contact during your consultation process with OGE, which Melba will now discuss.
Thank you for that wonderful handoff, Cheryl. Next, we're going to talk about what happens once you have submitted your waiver to OGE. Where does it go? Who reviews it? What happens next? All of your burning questions will be answered. So, now you may be wondering, what's the next stop for your waiver on its journey to final issuance? Once your draft waiver has been assigned to an OGE attorney, the OGE attorney will review it for legal sufficiency. This begins the consultation process. While a review for legal sufficiency is one aspect of the OGE consultation, your reviewer will also email the agency with any questions they may have during their initial review. These comments are typically provided via email as comments in the draft waiver document. In some instances where OGE has several comments, or if the agency requires a little bit of assistance with some part of the waiver analysis, the OGE attorney may schedule a phone call to discuss the waiver. Once OGE's questions or comments have been addressed and there are no outstanding concerns, your consultation with OGE will conclude. So, as you may recall, during our last training module about drafting and organizing your B1 waiver, we discussed the requirement to include a statement that the agency has consulted with OGE. However, please remember that you cannot use this statement until, number one, you have actually completed your consultation with OGE, and number two, OGE did not object to the issuance of the waiver. If OGE has objected to the waiver, you cannot use this statement. If you are unsure whether your consultation has concluded, please confirm with your OGE reviewer. Okay, you have completed your OGE consultation. Yay! All right, now what? It's time to talk about issuance. Once the consultation process with OGE is completed, the agency will prepare a final waiver and ensure that either the authority responsible for the employee's appointment or another person who has been delegated that authority signs the waiver. This is the last section of your waiver, which we illustrated in our previous training module about drafting and organizing your waiver. So shameless plug, if you have not seen our second video, please be sure to check it out. Once the final waiver has been signed, the employee should receive a copy of the final waiver. In addition, the regulation does require that the agency send a copy of the final signed waiver to OGE. This requirement pertains to all final waivers issued by an agency, even if the agency did not consult with OGE.
Now, all final 18 USC 208 waivers are federal records, and as such, they have an approved National Archives disposition authority. So, agencies must retain all final 208 waivers by fiscal year. These waivers are subject to a 6-year retention period by fiscal year. They can be destroyed at the end of the 6-year retention period, unless, of course, there's a reason to retain them longer. For example, if there's an ongoing investigation or litigation related to the waiver. Agencies are also required to make all final waivers publicly available upon request, and that should be in accordance with the process found at 5 USC 13107. And finally, when responding to public requests for 208 waivers, agencies should follow the release procedures, including the limitations on availability found at 5 CFR 2640.304. As always, if you have any questions about any of the content found in this or prior parts of the series, please reach out to your OGE desk officer for assistance.
Thank you so much for joining us on this journey as we learn more about 18 USC 208B1 waivers. We hope this training series has been helpful.